it in the budget of Parliament, or was it in some mischievous arrangements between the Treasury and elements in the executive? Because it is this kind of escapades where there's no accountability that are used to steal money from Kenyans. So my interest is that the campaigns are over. We rallied behind the flag, but let us be informed how much money was taken out of the Treasury, if at all, and what procedure was used to authorize that. Because I've checked the Appropriation Acts of Parliament, I've not found any provision for that campaign. And so I would want to know how much was spent on that campaign, and if Parliament was not involved, who authorized the Treasury to spend that money, if the money came from the public? The other issue that I would like to speak, yes, please inform me.
Would you like to be informed by Senator Eddy?
If it's credible.
Proceed, Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think that the issue that the Senator of Busia is raising is a patent issue, and he has raised a dichotomous issue. One is the issue of the campaign, and the other is the issue of those who went to Addis Ababa. It will be remiss of me not to speak on one that does affect me directly, because I did travel to Addis Ababa, and I did interact with the people who traveled to Addis Ababa to be able to give support to our own. I want to inform the Senator of Busia on the issue of those who traveled. Majority of whom I interacted with, and I also traveled to give Raila Amolo Odinga support. We self-sponsored to go to Addis. And if you need the evidence to that effect, I am willing to table as many as possible of those people who believed that indeed supporting our own, just like we'll go to a rugby sevens in South Africa, or you will go to watch our sister Kipyegon run in a marathon, or you will go to watch Kipchoge in Olympic. Some of us were patriotic enough to believe that this matter was very important for the country, that we self-sponsored ourselves to get to Addis Ababa. That is an important information that I think that patriots like yourself should understand, that patriots like us did take that chance and did take that hint to be able to go and support Baba Raila Amolo Odinga in Ethiopia. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Eddy. You can proceed, Senator Okiya.
Thanks for the unverified information. I would love to see you table that you have promised to table, to demonstrate to this House that people self-sponsored. In the absence of that, you hold your horses and forever keep quiet. Moving on,
Senator Okiya, the Honorable Senator actually offered before being prompted that he could table the evidence. So it shouldn't be an area of contention. He can bring that evidence and table.
It's not an area of contention, but it's an attempt to sugarcoat a tablet. And that sugarcoating the one I'm guarding against.
Which you would conclude after he tables and you find it's sugar-coated. That's the only time you
he needs to produce
have rendered a fair judgment on the issue.
As well as Soyinka tells us that
Senator Eddy, you will be allowed to table that evidence that you paid your own ticket and you paid your own. Okay.
Thank you, my
Proceed.
brother. Having said that, money issues aside, a lot has been said about foreign policy. Where I stand, foreign policy basically means how attractive are you to others, or how threatening are you to others. If you have no nuclear weapons, you cannot be threatening in the modern world. So you must have something attractive. Therefore, to be attractive, it means that your domestic policy, your domestics are okay. So For me, I think the problem we have is in framing what you call a foreign policy is on the domestic front. You cannot have a foreign policy worth talking of if the rule of law is disregarded. People who have got a different opinion are abducted. Foreigners who seek refuge here are kidnapped and repatriated, extradited, or whatever the word is, to their countries without due process. All those things, when you can't pay your schools, your universities, your hospitals, everything is in a mess. Your debts are unserviceable. You can't talk of a foreign policy when the home front is on fire. You can only talk of a foreign policy when and if the home front is proper. And so when you talk of the home front, we have got this thing of governance by merchant values. Some may call it deal making, but almost what you talk of the merchants of Venice in the plays of Shakespeare. Here we are, that today in Nairobi, we have the Janjaweed being allowed to open an office. This is a genocidal organ that tried to eliminate black people, and it killed millions of black people. It was not even religious, because the people in Darfur are largely Muslim, profess the Muslim faith, but they were killed because they were not Arabs by this group. It's a record, it's a matter of public notoriety, that the Janjaweed, which has now been given an office in Nairobi to operate from, has a history of trying to eliminate black people. What do we stand for as a country? Who has benefited from that process? Where is the due process leading to that particular decision? Article 10 of the Constitution is very clear. And it's very clear by stating that policy decisions, and that tax the executive, must be subjected to public participation. At the very least, a paper should have been tabled in Parliament on the issue of Kenya wishing to go to bed with the Janjaweed. Then you could debate it. Also surprising is that this thing has happened so soon after the Addis Ababa debacle. I call it a debacle because, looking at the evidence, such things don't happen overnight. There must have been negotiations and must have been interactions between this group and the regime running the Republic of Kenya. So, there must have been intelligence that Kenya cannot produce a chair of the AU who can be a neutral arbiter, because the government is in bed with factions that are responsible for undermining the rule of law and the issues of governance on the continent. So I'm sure people knew. And we know some time back, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto was proposed to be chair the negotiations over the Sudan. And we remember the government in Khartoum stating in very clear terms that it could not allow it because they perceived him to be biased. A few years later, you can see that their fears were not idle. Their fears have been proven by the presence of the Janjaweed here. We have seen matters happening in this country where even a group pronounced its opposition to the government of the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, from Nairobi. So, what is Pan-African about that? When you look at the genocidal wars in the Congo, what's Pan-African about the Janjaweed being here? When you look at the genocide in Darfur, in the Sudan. Madam Speaker, I think we need to take a good look at ourselves as Kenyans in the mirror and ask ourselves, what is going on? I'm almost being persuaded that we are getting to a point whereby the Republic might need to invoke Article 144 of the Constitution. For those who care to do, you can check out what Article 144 of the Constitution provides. Because some things that are happening defy logic, defy any attempt at understanding them, and can only happen outside the sphere of a well-constructed syllogism. Madam Speaker, it's a very, very heavy heart that today I stand in this august house as a powerless legislator, a house that has totally failed to have any impact on the executive, a house that has got absolutely nothing to write home about its achievements. Absolutely nothing. Even if you gave them the back of a postage stamp and a felt pen, they would not feel it with any achievement you have had in terms of checking the executive. We have not, and we don't understand the insignia on our own desks here. Deputy Minority Whip, Minority Whip, Minority Whip, and a Majority Leader, whatever. Which is a clear statement that this House is not an extension of the executive. We'd be having a government side and an opposition side if the executive was given from this House. The executive in this country was directly elected by the people to be accountable to this House. The structure of the Constitution is such that the president must be lobbying and begging this House to allow him to do what he wants to do as a check. If it's appointments, they come to Parliament for clearance, be it in the National Assembly or here. If it's a budget, it comes to Parliament for approval. But things have been turned on their head. And today, it's MPs kneeling before the president instead of the other way around. So I'm totally ashamed and embarrassed that I belong to a parliament that is totally incapacitated for reasons that I don't know. Everything has been turned on its head. And as a result, the executive behaves like it's a law upon itself. That's why the Janjaweed can be given an office in Nairobi at the whims of an individual and claim that the people of Kenya have welcomed the Janjaweed to come and run their genocidal government from Nairobi. It's extremely sad. Madam Speaker, I plead with my fellow members of Parliament in the Senate and in the National Assembly. Senators and assemblymen and women.
Senator Osotsi, you have an intervention? Have you pressed for intervention?
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt Senator Okiya Omtatah, but I think it's important for us to be told more about this Janjaweed, because my little knowledge about Janjaweed is that it's a terrorist group that operates in the Sahel region, Sudan, Chad, and Yemen. And Senator Omtatah, whom I respect a lot, and I know he has a lot of information, he has said that they have opened an office in Kenya. So I think this is a serious matter that even me as a representative of the people, I would like to know more about that. Have these people opened an office in Kenya, and what action can we take as a representative of the people? Because this Janjaweed, which translates to devils on a horseback, that is what it means in English, is a destructive group, is a terrorist group, which was even defined as a terrorist group by the United Nations. So if indeed they are in Kenya, and I don't want to doubt what Senator Omtatah is saying, because he has always proven that whatever he says, he has researched very well. So I think I need to know more about that, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senator Okiya Omtatah, you know, under the Standing Order 105, you have a responsibility for a statement, issuing statement of fact for everything you allege while you are debating. You can proceed to give information that supports what you have alleged.
Incidentally, Senator Osotsi, thank you for asking me to do the obvious. I always carry my laptop, and I've just clicked in the word search under warring factions in the Sudan. And what has come up, Sudanese, under the heading Sudanese Civil War 2023 to present on Wikipedia, that is HTTP.
Honorable Senator, are you presenting social media facts?
It's not a social media fact.
This
is an internet resource. It's a Wikipedia, an internet resource. Yes, it's an authority, and I've referred to it. So the two opponent factions consist of the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, under Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and its allies, collectively the Janjaweed Coalition, under the Janjaweed under Hemedit.
What is your point of order, Senator Eddy? Senator Boni, give Senator Eddy time to raise his point of order.
Madam Speaker, responsibility of fact 105. If you read that entire standing order, Madam Speaker, there is a standard of proving facts in this House. A Parliament of Kenya, the Senate of Kenya, want to depend on Wikipedia as a source that can be tabled in the House to prove fact, Madam Speaker. What are we doing? Who is the author of Wikipedia? Wikipedia is a source that anybody, just like social media, can go and post anything on Wikipedia. Are we going to depend on Wikipedia sources in this House, Senator Boni Aluale, the majority whip? Is this where the House of Senators reached, to depend on Wikipedia sources in the House? I think that the spirit of Standing Order number 105 is such that when there is any issue of fact that is raised in this House, then an honorable senator must then produce a reliable source that is available to all senators but not social media facts and figures and Wikipedia sources that, Madam Speaker, have got voices from all over that you cannot be able to point to one person. So I request the Honorable Senator that, yes, there is a very serious issue that is bringing to the House, but let his source be credible, and let his source be something that we can all believe in and appreciate. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Okiya.
I urge my brother, Senator from Migori, to dismount from his emaciated and starving high horse and understand that Wikipedia always has links to sources where the information comes from. But that as it may be, I would also like to bring in another authority. I was still producing authorities.
Okay, Senator Okiya, it's your responsibility to give verified information whose authors may be known or the source is credible. So
yes.
I will now request you or guide you to give the author of the information you are giving or the source that you are giving from that Wikipedia.
Well, I'm here. I've left the Wikipedia alone. I'm here at https://www.cfr.org/global-conflict-power-struggle-Sudan by